Hello and welcome. Today I am going to run through an update of my Cyclops vs Minotaurs video, which had a patch drop the day after I posted it. I'm going to run 12 tests here today, plus one bonus test at the end. This video will be a bit experimental, trying out some new camera angles and ideas. For my next video, it should be somewhere in the middle. To help change the future of this channel, let me know what you think of the differences in the comments. I didn't want this to become just a Cyclops channel, but they are one of my favorite units, as you can probably tell from the new splash screen. I'm hoping to put out a second video this week as well, as this one is more of just a quick rehash. For a hint on what the next one will be about, make sure to watch the whole video. The changes made in the patch were the following. Cyclops were 20% more expensive than Minotaurs before, but Minotaurs are 20% more expensive than Cyclops now. This is possibly the biggest change, as if you account for resources instead of population, all of the tests that I do become very favored on the side with higher numbers. However, since their population remains the same, I will again run tests with equal numbers. The two myth units also had their pierce armor values swapped. Minotaurs had their pierce armor decreased from 55% to 50%, while Cyclops had their pierce armor increased from 50% to 55%. Cyclops were already better at taking archer and building fire due to their increased health pool. This aspect is now exaggerated even more. Even so, 5% is not a very large amount of change overall. 5% of the unupgraded Toxotes 6 damage attack is only 0.3 damage. Finally, Cyclops had their hack armor increased from 30% to 40%. This is a much bigger change than the pierce armor change. The damage they take from the Minotaur's basic attack went from about 24 to about 20, which is about a 20% decrease. So on top of potentially fielding more Cyclops than Minotaurs, they will be fighting much better than they did. Hack armor was the Cyclops' main weakness, and now it's not really so bad. Given that myth unit HP increases through the ages, I would say Cyclops are now a unit to consider making all game through. They are a slow-moving tank that can take a lot of damage and also dish a lot of damage. In the main series of tests, I used Poseidon as the major god for the Cyclops and Zeus as the major god for the Minotaur. Poseidon's small movement speed bonus should not make a huge difference in these non-microed fights. Zeus's reduced population size would make a huge difference if I accounted for it, but I decided there were already too many variables here. For the final two rounds, I used Hades. Hades' bonus was nerfed from a 20% buff to a 15% buff. Rather than comparing pre-patch to post-patch, as pre-patch is not really a factor anymore, I am using this opportunity to also test if the new Hades bonus can make these myth units win against a large number of human units. As the tests are progressing, we are seeing similar results to pre-patch, though the Minotaur is doing noticeably worse. In the old video, I accidentally had Hades as my major god for only the Minotaur side, which thankfully, many of you pointed out in the comments. Again, these results do not and cannot show actual game results, especially professional games. Like many of you, I played Age of Mythology when I was younger, but I'm just now coming back to looking at it more closely after the Age of Empires 2 DE Renaissance. In Age of Empires 2, you do not have favor as a resource, you do not have variable population amounts, and all civilizations have the same base units. In Age of Mythology, it's always a question of how to account for the fact that I'm pitting myth units against normal human units. With equal population or resources, the myth units clearly would win, without much learned. Hopefully this video provides something to be learned from auto attack fights in spite of that. For example, do not engage an equal numbers mixed army by someone who has Cyclops if you have Minotaurs. It would be better to pepper them from range with arrows and retreat, or go forward to attack their base. Though we did learn from the last video that the Cyclops will likely win a base trade. As you all know, this is an experimental video. How many of you enjoy watching these experiments without me droning on? We're about to find out. If you prefer some dialogue, don't worry, there is more commentary toward the end of the video. Bonus round. I wanted to see if Cyclops were truly worth making in the late game compared to Mythic Age myth units. The Chimera was one of the best units in Age of Mythology before Retold dropped, though I believe it requires some testing to see if that is still the case. Regardless, they cost twice as many resources as an Elder Cyclops and take up one more population space, but in even numbers, do not do as well against the army. Of course, if you put them in the ideal situation, with all 20 enemy units bunched into a ball, they would win with minimal HP loss, but that seemed too unrealistic, even for me. Here you can see the final results. I made a chart of the total percent of HP remaining across all trials. This paints a picture of how well each unit did over the course of all trials. The Minotaur only won a few combats, and not by as much as the Cyclops if you compare them. The Bull Minotaur seems like it gains a lot of HP from its upgrade, but it truly does not scale well at all into the late game. Their no micro niche of winning by a higher margin against small groups of low hack armor units such as cavalry is erased after you get the temple upgrades for both units. As for the provocative question, are Cyclops OP? Given that one fully upgraded Cyclops loses in combat to one fully upgraded War Elephant, I'm not sure that is the case. Hopefully we will see a good amount of Cyclops at the upcoming Red Bull tournament next week, which make sure not to miss. If you found this video interesting, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel to help it grow. Until next time.